Hand over the keys to your $5 million project. Now. In front of everyone. That's how my Thursday started. At 9:02 a.m. in a room that smelled like burnt coffee and fear. My boss was standing at the end of the conference table with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, and 40 people watched my face like it was a loading bar. The board observer had dialed in. Our biggest client sat muted on Zoom. HR wasn't here. Legal wasn't here. Just me, my laptop, and a sentence that tried to turn a year of work into a prop. I wish I could tell you I'm braver than I am. I'm not. I'm just methodical. I don't raise my voice. I count to 10 and read policy. I looked at my boss, then at the clock on the wall, then at the keys hanging off my badge lanyard, like a joke from the universe. She didn't want those keys. She wanted the other kind, the secrets in the vault, the HSM-bound admin tokens, the SSO superuser, the production runbook only I could execute because procurement wouldn't pay for another name license. She wanted me to transfer authority in a room full of people too polite to interrupt a train crash. This is an all hands, she said, camera brightening her cheekbones. Leadership requires trust. We will demonstrate that trust by ensuring there are no single points of failure. She had rehearsed it. She turned to me again. Please share your screen and pass the credentials to me. I opened my laptop with steady hands I didn't feel. A year of build, 12 months of 3 a.m. maintenance windows, 6 vendor security reviews, 27 change tickets, and a compliance calendar that had reminders popping up like gnats, compressed into a single click on the trackpad. In the corner of my monitor, the recording dot glowed. The meeting was being captured. Good. I'm happy to walk you through access, I said. Simple words. The room exhaled as if I'd complied. I wasn't complying. I was aligning with our own rules in plain view. There's a difference. I mirrored my screen. The dashboard appeared. 6 tiles, green, green, amber, green, green, green. Our SaaS platform looked deceptively calm. The client's logo sat in the upper right, a mute witness. In the chat, the board observer typed, "We have 5 minutes before the demo." My boss said, "Even better. Let's do it live." I clicked policies. No one ever clicks policies. That tab is a cemetery for attention spans. But it's where the truth lives. The camera caught the bulleted list I'd stared at so many nights I could recite it like a prayer. Credentials are personal and non-transferable. Role escalations require a break glass ticket. Break glass execution requires dual approval from InfoSec and the product owner. All rotation events are immutable and logged to the CM. No privileged secrets may be shared over conferencing software. I highlighted the last one with my cursor and felt 40 pairs of eyes shift. "This will take 2 minutes," I said. I was buying time without sounding like I was buying time. My boss stepped closer, palms open. "We don't need the lecture," she said. "We need the keys. Why do we need to show velocity?" Velocity is what people say when they can't measure truth. I opened the Vault client. The passphrase field waited like a mouth. I didn't type. I turned my laptop a fraction so the room could see the banner that appears anytime you try to pull a privileged secret. You are accessing controlled material. Continued action will alert legal and security. My boss laughed like it was theater. "We are all on the same team," she said, eyes on the client's box. "Proceed." I proceeded. I opened the internal handover document I had written 6 months ago because I'm the kind of person who writes documents for days I hope will never arrive. "For transparency," I said, scrolling. It was dry reading in a room that wanted blood, but I read anyway, because policy is armor for people who don't have power. The steps were plain. For demonstrations, use a sandbox tenant. For any change of control, file a break glass ticket. For any key rotations, enact runbook RG12 with dual approvals. Under no condition share or display raw secrets. "We're not changing control," she said. "You're giving me your credentials." Across the table, my favorite engineer stared at his hands, knuckles white. He knew what I knew. You can't give someone your identity without breaking the system you built to protect everyone else. The client unmuted. "We're fine to proceed with what you have planned," she said carefully, like a person stepping around glass. "We just want to see live data." My boss pivoted with the grace of a weather vane. "Of course," she said. "We'll be looking at real-time dashboards." Real-time dashboards don't matter if you don't have the rights to pull them, and you shouldn't have the rights to pull them without the trail that says you should. I created a read-only token scoped to the demo tenant. The cursor blinked. The vault blinked back. I set the TTL to 30 minutes and named it Demo 2025, 10 row 3 AH. The mouse stopped above the copy icon. I didn't click it. I tapped the share link button that creates an internal one-time retrieval page with masked output. The system asked for a recipient. I typed my boss's company email and the head of InfoSec. Not to be dramatic, to be documented. "Sent," I said. Her jaw tightened. "Why is it read only?" "Because it's a demo," I said. "Because we're not performing a rotation. Because you asked me to hand over keys in a public meeting, and the only safe thing I can hand you in a public meeting is a read-only door that closes by itself." She smiled like a warning. "Let's not be difficult." She clicked the link on her laptop. In 2 seconds, she'd see the masked token and the scope line that would keep her from doing what she'd promised upstairs. Live enable features the product wasn't ready to show. The features existed. They were gated behind a change advisory board because you can't shortcut guardrails just because your calendar ran out of confidence. I kept my voice measured. "If you want escalation, we can file a break glass. InfoSec will approve if it's appropriate." "We don't need InfoSec for everything," she said, which is the dictionary definition of when you need InfoSec for everything. She turned to the room. "Folks, you're seeing in real time why our timelines slip. This is what bottlenecking looks like." My cheeks didn't burn. That surprised me. I thought they would. Instead, I felt the peculiar quiet that comes when you stop trying to be liked and start trying to be exact. I opened the change calendar. Every production push in 12 months was there with my name next to people who never got applause. I didn't point. I didn't defend. I let the dots exist, each one a night. I stayed until the building was a fish tank of blue light, and the cleaning crew started to recognize my shoes. The client leaned into her camera. "We're minutes away from our own leadership check-in," she said. "We can do the demo in Sandbox. We just want to understand the workflow." I nodded, happy to walk you through it. I dragged the dashboard window into view, the one that points at fake money and real code. My boss folded her arms like she owned the oxygen. I started with the login sequence, narrated the SSO handshake in words the finance team could follow, and clicked through to the telemetry panel that looks like a city at night. Green, green, amber. I didn't promise anything I couldn't prove. I didn't show anything I couldn't audit. In the back row, someone coughed. The room settled around the sound like leaves after wind. My boss checked her phone. The red recording dot on the screen felt less like a camera and more like a metronome. Steady, unemotional, honest. I took a breath. I kept going. I kept my hands where everyone could see them, and I kept the rules between us like glass. Before I typed a single password, I opened the one document my boss forgot existed. That was the pivot. Not a raised voice, not a slammed laptop, just a link, a PDF, 6 pages long, stamped with the words, "Change Control Policy." The same one every manager clicked acknowledge on in compliance training and never read again. The projector magnified it across the wall, like scripture. She flinched. The client leaned forward. Someone near the coffee urn stopped scrolling their phone. I didn't dramatize. I just read. Credentials are non-transferable. Break glass access requires dual authorization. Privileged secrets cannot be shared over conferencing software. All escalations are immutable and logged. The words landed like hammer strikes. Dull but undeniable. My boss laughed, too sharp. "We don't need policy theater." I smiled the way you smile when you know gravity will finish the job for you. This is not theater, I said. This is the foundation of the system you asked me to build. I opened the vault again. The command line waited. Black screen, white cursor, one keystroke away from the kind of mistake you don't recover from. I typed 3 words: vault read, sandbox demo. The response appeared: mask token, scope, read-only, tenant, demo 2025, TTL 30 minutes. The system stamped it in real time, issued by ME, approved automatically because sandbox tokens don't require dual sign-off. Everything else did, she said. That's not production. That's correct. The silence after that was thick. People shifted in their chairs. A junior analyst looked up like he was seeing daylight for the first time. I let the room breathe it in. Let me explain why, I said. My tone was calm, almost confessional, like I was apologizing for being the only one who cared about locks on the doors. If I push a production key in this setting, the system auto-triggers 3 alerts: legal, infosec, and risk. Those alerts open tickets. Those tickets go into the change calendar. And the change calendar is immutable. I pulled up the calendar. It was a lattice of colored blocks, each one a night I'd traded sleep for uptime. My cursor hovered over one. March 18th, 3:42 a.m., hotfix deployed, rollback in 12 minutes. The system had logged it with precision no human memory could outpace. Every dot was proof. Her jaw worked like she wanted to grind the evidence into dust. This is bottlenecking, she said again, louder to the board observer on Zoom. We can't scale if one engineer holds all the keys. But the observer's face was unreadable, like glass. The client typed in chat. Sandbox is fine for us. I didn't say it out loud, but the words glowed in my head. Receipts beat titles, always. I clicked into the dashboard again. This time I narrated slowly, like a teacher. This is what happens when we launch a sandbox. This is the workflow your teams will use. Authentication, scope, telemetry. Green lights pulsed, amber flickered. Nothing glamorous, but everything true. And then I showed the part she had counted on me skipping. The audit log, one column after another, timestamps, IP addresses, user IDs, token scopes. I magnified the line where my account generated the demo token just seconds ago. Immutable. Signed. Stored. You see? I said. There's no way to fake it. No way to backfill a promise. Her hands curled on the table. We don't need your lecture. Just give me access. But the room had shifted. People weren't looking at me anymore. They were looking at her. She knew it, and so did I. The board observer cleared his throat. Proceed with the demo as planned, he said evenly. We'll revisit the escalation process afterward. That was it. A single sentence. A reprieve disguised as neutrality. She smiled thinly, but her eyes were screaming. I leaned back just enough to look calm, but inside I was counting every heartbeat, because I knew what was next. She'd take the token, try to run it live, and the system would do exactly what it was designed to do. Show her nothing she could fake. And that moment was coming fast. She clicked, run, and the room heard the sound you never want mid-demo. Nothing. It wasn't a crash. It wasn't an error message. It was worse. The dashboard blinked, spun for 3 agonizing seconds, and returned blank. No charts, no revenue curves, no shiny numbers she had shown on slides for weeks. Just an empty sandbox tenant staring back at her like an unblinking eye. For a half-breath she froze. Her cursor hovered, waiting for data that didn't exist. Then she forced a laugh, brittle as glass. Network latency, she said. But everyone could see the Wi-Fi was strong, the connection green. The board observer leaned forward on his webcam. Where are the KPIs you presented last quarter? She cleared her throat. They're in the production environment. We're running sandbox for now, but... The client unmuted. A middle-aged man in a dark suit, polite but not patient. We've been told your system is live. We'd like to see our tenant. Real-time usage. Real-time revenue. The silence after that was louder than shouting. My hands rested on the keyboard. Steady. I kept my voice level. Our governance requires change advisory approval before switching tenants in a live meeting. That protects client data and ensures compliance. She snapped her head toward me. We don't have time for bureaucracy. And that's when it happened. The compliance system lit up. On my screen, a bright banner appeared. Unauthorized attempt to escalate privileges detected. The alert shot into the corner of the projector feed for everyone to see. Automatic email to legal. Automatic ping to InfoSec. Immutable. Logged. Permanent. The room inhaled. She tried to mask it. This is just a demo token. Ignore the warning. But InfoSec didn't ignore warnings. A knock at the door. 2 people entered, one in a navy blazer with a badge clipped to his belt, another carrying a laptop with stickers like battle scars. They didn't look at her. They looked at me. We got the alert. Show us what happened. My heart didn't race. It slowed, like time was giving me room to breathe. I mirrored my screen, pulled up the vault log. Every action had a timestamp. My issuance of the read-only token, her attempt to escalate beyond scope, the system flagging unauthorized access. Black text on white background. No adjectives, just truth. The InfoSec guy nodded slowly. This is a sandbox. Production requires Key AB approval. You can't bypass that in front of clients. Her voice rose. We're losing momentum. We promised them a live revenue feed. And there it was. The slip. The words we promised. The board observer narrowed his eyes. Promised? We were told the metrics were already proven. The client leaned closer to his camera. Were we shown fabricated data? You could feel the air leave her lungs. It was illustrative, placeholder values, to demonstrate potential velocity. But the log was still up, and logs don't care about euphemisms. No placeholder, no velocity. Just an empty sandbox and a policy she couldn't bend. The InfoSec analyst scrolled further back. Why is there a record of exports from production into non-approved devices? Her face drained of color. That's operational necessity. No, he said flatly. That's non-compliant. Around the table, heads tilted. Some colleagues looked at her. Others looked at me. No one looked away anymore. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. All I said was, we can continue the demo in Sandbox, or we can pause until proper approvals are in place. The board observer's voice was quiet, final. Continue in Sandbox. We'll need a full report afterward. Her smile cracked like old paint. She nodded, but her hands shook when she touched the mouse. And as the Sandbox numbers populated, fake money, fake traffic, but real code, the truth sat heavy in the room. She hadn't just gambled with my work. She'd gambled with trust, and lost. I didn't raise my voice. I raised the audit log. That was the moment it stopped being my word against hers. It became the system's word, unbiased, time-stamped, and merciless. The InfoSec analyst tapped his keyboard, and the projector shifted from the dashboard to the raw audit feed. Lines of text scrolled, each one a receipt. Who accessed what, when, and from which device. The room leaned in. The log didn't stutter. It spoke fluently, in truth. Timestamp, 09 to 213. Vault token issued by my username. Scoped, Sandbox. TTL, 30 metas. Timestamp, 09441. Unauthorized privilege escalation attempt by her username. Denied. Timestamp, 09442. Automatic alert dispatched to InfoSec and legal. Her face flushed. That's taken out of context. The analyst didn't even look at her. Audit logs don't have context. They have facts. I scrolled further back, my fingers calm, deliberate. A week earlier, 2 weeks earlier, export entries, large datasets pulled from production at odd hours. Destination, a personal laptop not on the approved asset list. Export size, hundreds of megabytes. The observer on Zoom leaned closer. Those look like revenue tables. They are, the analyst confirmed. Production telemetry, downloaded off hours. My boss forced a smile. Teeth too sharp. I requested those for leadership reporting. Perfectly normal. Except the next lines betrayed her. The exports hadn't been routed through reporting channels. They'd been dumped into Excel, then repackaged as slide decks with inflated growth curves. The record quarter she had paraded wasn't real. It was a spreadsheet costume over a hollow system. HR finally spoke, voice tight. Were those numbers presented to the board? Silence. The board observer's jaw tightened. Yes, they were. Her eyes darted. This is sabotage. She pointed at me, finger trembling, is holding back keys, making me look incompetent. I didn't flinch. I've complied with every policy. Every action I've taken is logged. Every approval documented. I opened the change calendar, my name stacked alongside midnight. Pushes, hotfixes, approvals, pages of them, each one signed by managers, legal, risk, none by her. The analyst highlighted a line in the logs. Here, a non-compliant promise. He clicked. An email popped up, sent from her account to the client 6 weeks ago. Subject, guaranteed feature delivery. Q3, promise, access to functionality still behind a cab gate. The client unmuted, voice like ice. You told us this was ready. We built our roadmap on your word. She stammered. It was a forecast. It was a lie. The observer cut in. His tone was clinical, like a doctor naming a disease. And now it's documented. The room's air changed. No more awkward shifting. No more polite silence. Just the cold clarity that comes when a mask falls off. I didn't gloat. I simply pointed at the screen. These are the receipts. Immutable. Verifiable. The system doesn't bend for anyone. Not even me. Her voice cracked. You're all making a mistake. You'll regret this. But the log kept scrolling, indifferent. Every keystroke she'd made, every corner she'd cut, every promise she couldn't deliver, written in code that doesn't forget. The observer exhaled. We'll need to take this offline. Full investigation, effective immediately. Her smile was gone. Her power was gone. All that remained was a chair she suddenly looked too small to sit in, and me, still at the keyboard, steady as stone, because when the log speaks, no one else has to. They asked me to fix the fire she lit, in front of the same people she tried to impress. The board observer's voice was calm but heavy. We still need the demo. Can you salvage it? I could have said no. I could have let the embers die where they fell, let her broken promises smolder until the building choked on the smoke. But the truth is, the project wasn't hers. It wasn't the board's either. It belonged to the team who had coded late nights, written documentation no one read, patched bugs no one thanked them for, and it deserved to survive her collapse. So I nodded. Yes, but we'll do it the right way. InfoSec stayed in the room, their laptops open like bodyguards with evidence. HR lingered in the corner, watching her every move. She sat stiff, hands folded like she could still will the world to obey her. But nobody was looking at her anymore. They were looking at me. I opened the change calendar. We can run a sanitized demo. Sandbox plus synthetic telemetry. It'll show functionality without exposing real client data. If you want production, it requires KB approval and dual sign-off. That takes hours, not minutes. The client nodded. We just need to see workflow integrity. Realism matters less than compliance at this point. And there it was, the word that cut through the noise, compliance, the thing she had gambled against. I pulled up the sanitized tenant. The dashboard glowed with dummy data, neat traffic curves, transaction flows, error logs seeded with harmless test cases. My colleague, quiet, overlooked, the one who'd been staring at his hands earlier, leaned forward. I can run the telemetry panel, he offered. His voice was cautious, like he wasn't sure he'd be allowed. I looked at him. Take it. He blinked, then took control of the screen. Fingers moved fast, precise. He narrated like a pro. User authentication, transaction flow, reconciliation checks. The room leaned in. The client asked sharp questions. He answered without flinching. For the first time all day, the board observer nodded, and in the corner of my eye, I saw her shrink. This wasn't sabotage. This was succession. When the demo ended, the client smiled faintly. That's what we needed. Thank you. The observer added, We'll expect a full remediation plan, in writing, by tomorrow. Understood, I said, already drafting it in my head. Tighten export controls, enforce device compliance, rotate all tokens, rebaseline every metric, clean fire lines around the damage she'd left. The meeting adjourned. People filtered out, murmurs in their wake. She stayed frozen in her chair like a statue no one wanted to photograph. HR leaned down, whispered something I couldn't hear, and she jolted upright, storming out without a word. That night, my inbox lit up, not with threats, but with offers. The board wanted me to lead the remediation formally. An investor, one I didn't know had been watching, sent a cryptic line, If you're ready to step out from under her shadow, call me, we'll fund it properly. I sat in the dark, phone buzzing on the desk, laptop humming like it knew more than I did. Part of me wanted to disappear into silence. Another part wanted to pick up that phone, because maybe this wasn't just survival. Maybe it was a door, and tomorrow I'd have to choose whether to walk through it. The only password I handed over was 3 words long, for cause. Terminated. That's how it ended. Not with shouting, not with revenge plotted in the dark, but with a line in a contract, signed by people who don't gamble with trust. The investigation moved fast. InfoSec's report was clinical. Unauthorized exports, fabricated metrics, non-compliant promises to clients. HR layered on breach of policy. Legal stamped it, for cause. She didn't get a severance, didn't get a bonus. Just a cardboard box and a reputation she'd never scrub clean. The day they escorted her out, the office was silent. Not hostile, just hollow, like everyone had finally exhaled. People glanced at me, some with relief, some with guilt that they hadn't spoken sooner. I didn't blame them. Titles cast long shadows. I just kept my head down, the way I always had. Then came the second ending, the one I didn't expect. The board called me upstairs. Different room, different air. They thanked me for preserving client confidence. They asked me to lead the remediation formally with a raise and a new title. But that wasn't the real offer. The real offer came later, over coffee with the investor who'd emailed me. He slid a folder across the table. Inside, funding terms. A spin-out built around the platform I had architected. Equity on the table. Independence guaranteed. You've proven the system works, he said. Now prove it without anchors. I didn't answer right away. My mind flashed back to the faces of my team. The overlooked engineer who had run the telemetry like a pro. The analysts who had held their breath while policies defended them. The people who deserved more than scraps from someone else's empire. I called the investor 2 days later. I'll do it, I said, but only if we take the team. And one more thing, the first person I hire as my number 2 is him. I named the colleague who had been ignored in meetings, the one who had found his voice in the demo. He didn't believe me when I told him. His eyes widened. Me? Yes, I said. You've already proven you can do it under pressure. Imagine what you'll do when someone actually trusts you. That's how we started. Not with stolen keys, not with sabotage, but with receipts, resilience, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing karma doesn't need help. It just needs witnesses. I didn't break the system. I used it. And in the end, the rules I'd written to protect the work ended up protecting me too. So when people ask me how it felt to hand over my project in front of everyone, I tell them the truth. I never handed it over. I just handed it back to the only place it belonged. Accountability. And that's a key no one can take. Thanks for following this all the way to the end. If you felt the payoff was worth it, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, what part of this story hit hardest for you?